The global podcasting market is projected to reach over 41 billion US dollars by 2026. So Khaled, I think we are in the right space.
I agree. People have a misconception. They're like, I'll start a podcast. We just put two mics, we record, and boom, you have a podcast. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of work. But what if there's that one client you get? And what if that client is your dream client? You could have the best marketing, the best whatever. People are not going to come back to the show. So I would tell people, and what I've learned, focus on the content. I've trained to be a host. But what I've also realized is there's a way to be a guest too, you know? Honestly, there's a skill set because now
You lost it in between you us.
Well, yeah, I know, that's the thing. So I think people underestimate the power of podcasts, but I also think people are very impatient.
Welcome to an exciting new season of Unboxed with AJ. We are on season 3, the podcast where we unravel the heart and soul of branding, marketing, and technology. I'm so excited today because this is the start of a brand new season. We've planned something very exciting, bigger show, better guests. And as part of that, I have with me today Khaled Abuljebain. Khaled is a fellow podcaster and founder of Hope It Helps Media Consulting. Nice name. With over 5 years of experience in podcasting, Khaled is called the Podcast Man. He is an expert in helping businesses and brands build authority and grow their reach through strategic podcasting. Having worked with top institutions in Dubai, like the American University of Dubai and the UAE, he is passionate about empowering clients to succeed in the podcasting space. Welcome to the show, Khaled.
Thank you very much, AJ, for having me. Very excited to be here and great intro.
So, thank you. So this, I have to commend my copywriters for that.
Yeah, big shout out. Shout out to the team, of course.
It's the first time that we're having a fellow podcaster on the show. Like I said, this is something, I'm not an expert in this. It started as a passion project, but we kept it consistent, we kept it rolling, and we're on season 3. And I'm so proud that, the team has been by my side pushing me and helping me grow this initiative. And we are at a stage where, we can look back and say, we've done something, we've learned something, and so on. Before I get into the actual questions that I have for you, I just want to share some very interesting facts, which I'm sure you may also know. The global podcasting market is projected to reach over 41 billion US dollars by 2026. Over 50% of US homes following podcasts or podcast fans. I don't have the Middle East numbers. I'm sure, the intake is very high. There are currently over 2 million active podcasts and with more than 48 million episodes in total. So that is really some staggering numbers. So Khaled, I think we are in the right space.
I agree. I definitely agree. It's a good time to be in the space.
Yeah. So like I said, we started, just to give you a backstory of where we are, where we came from and where we are right now. So we started this as a passion project, and we are on season 3. And over the years, what I've noticed is that because we kept it consistent, because we kept trying different things, what I've noticed that it started to have an impact on my personal brand. It's helping me generate leads for my business, which is a branding and marketing and technology agency. And as well as the best part, which I really enjoy the most, is that I get to meet some amazing people, and share, get really mind-boggling insights and perspectives into a lot of things. So when you speak to an expert on the other side, you get something really valuable from them. And this has been my journey, and I would recommend this to anyone who has this passion, who has this vision to either grow a personal brand or build a business, or to just have a casual conversation with someone really exciting. So Khaled, tell me, what has been your journey? I would really love to know what inspired you on this journey, and where are you now?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me again on the show, AJ. I really appreciate it. I resonate with that passion and the journey and the vision that you've had for the podcast. That's been my journey as well. So just to give you some context, so I was living in Amsterdam between 2017 and 2020. And during that time, I went on a massive like personal development journey, you know, lots of pain, lots of heartbreak, lots of learnings. And I just decided I wanted to, you know, change my life. I was done feeling that way. And podcasts played a very key role along that journey. So through podcasts, I learned about business, mental health, relationships, strategy, sales. It was like a free education into so many different areas. So they played a really big part in my life and throughout that journey. So I love talking to people, kind of like, you know, someone like yourself. If you have a show, you gotta like talking to people. And I would have lots of great conversations with people over the years. And then I was like, maybe if this was, you know, recorded, it could provide some value to someone one day. So I moved back to Dubai a month before COVID. And that's when, obviously, no one's hiring anything, no one's looking for work, everything was, you know, kind of shutting down. So I'm like, it's been on my mind for a year, there's no probably better time to start than now, there's nothing else going on. Sure. And that's kind of how the show got started. Mm-hmm. And the name is Hope It Helps because I was just walking around in Amsterdam one day and I was like, if I started a podcast, like, what am I trying to do? Like, what would it be about? And I'm like, I'm just trying to help people, like all these amazing people, you know, help me. And that's kind of how the show started. It's been going now for 5 years. I've produced, just for my show, over 130 episodes. We've generated over 40,000 downloads. And now also with my clients, so with the American University in Dubai and with, you know, the chairman of the Kanu Group, produced also, you know, another like 50 episodes probably combined for them. So I've been in this for a long time. I love it. I'm still active in it. I have a weekly show. So it takes a lot of work and it's just me. So I'm the host, I'm the producer, I'm the editor, I'm the social media guy, I'm the thumbnail guy, I'm everything all baked into one. Although it's difficult and it can be time consuming, that is how I've been able to deliver a lot of value to clients because I've been in every single part of this and I've improved in every single part of this. So I know when it comes to YouTube, how you have to structure things, how you have to create the content, how you have to build it, the consistency, which is a key thing that you said. But yeah, that's just a quick, you know, summary about me, man.
It's really amazing because 5 years is a very long time, and the fact that you've been able to keep it going, and you know, you've been doing everything behind the scenes is really, you know, amazing. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced over the years? Because I know when you look back at your first episode, I've seen it on YouTube as well, the setting, you know, the way we communicate and stuff that is different from your latest episodes. Your visuals are much more polished. Even your the cover, what do you call that? Cover image is really interesting. So we can see that it's the transition from the first episode to the last episode that you've done right now, and there's a big shift. But I'm sure that shift didn't come easy, right? You've had a lot of learning to do along the way. So can you tell us what was some of the biggest challenges that you faced and how you were able to navigate it?
Yeah, well, I apologize that you had to go back and see what we started with.
Nobody likes that, you know, because I'm not sure. I follow this YouTuber, MKBHD.
Oh, of course, of course.
Tech guy. So if you look at his first video where he shot, you know, in his bedroom, you know, he's just a kid. And
you know, everything, I think anything that has been built to a certain level started very humble beginnings, just like, you know, when you guys started your first episode, just like I did. So I would say the biggest challenges I would split into 3 different categories. There's the challenge of hosting the show, then there's the challenge of marketing the show, and then there's the challenge of understanding how to build the show. So on the hosting side, I would say, AJ, I'd say after episode 100, because my friends would tell me, Khaled, we love the show, it's great, but it's not you. You know, it's a much more polished version of you, you're much more reserved, you know. And another piece of feedback I got from my cousin who's been a big supporter of the show, he's like, remember, this is Khaled's show. It's not, yes, you're inviting the guests to give them a platform and to, you know, show them in the best light, but this is your show. So the way you speak, the way you act, the way you think, like bring more of yourself into the conversation. And I'd say over the last 6 months, is when I've started to do that, and now I'm enjoying the show so much more than even I was doing initially. So that's the hosting side. A big mistake I made, AJ, was everyone talks about consistency in podcasting, and it's one of the most important things. But podcasting, that's just one side of it. So I made the mistake. So my first year, I did 52 episodes in a row, 1 year straight from when I started to when I ended. And I thought if you're just consistent and like I'd post once a week, guys, episodes out, that would be enough to grow the show. It did grow the show, but podcast, that's just one side of it. Podcasting, the distribution, the marketing, the packaging, that is such an underestimated factor when it comes to podcasting that I think a lot of people don't realize. People have a misconception. They're like, oh, I'll start a podcast. We'll just put 2 mics, we'll record, and boom, you have a podcast. But there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes and to build the show. As you've seen, I'm sure with your experience as well.
Yes.
And then the last thing would be how you want to grow the show. So finding, what's your niche? Because my show is quite broad. It's a general show. It's an educational platform. That's kind of what I'm trying to build. And only, I'd say in the last month or 2 months ago, I had my that aha moment. I'm like, this is what the show's about. So my mission is to provide education on demand. Just like when you go on Netflix, which is video on demand, you scroll through, you're like, okay, I'm interested in watching this today. And I'll watch that, and my goal is to be entertained. I'm like, cool. So my podcast is basically like a Netflix, but for education. Because I have such a wide range of topics, come to the podcast, find the topic that you're interested in, and I hope that by the end of it, you have learned something, a new perspective, a tool that will help you in your life, either personally or professionally. So the challenge is it's a consistent evolution. And look, it took me 5 years to become the host I am now, to get my branding correct, to get the vision correct. So it's an ever-evolving process, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in every aspect of what you've just mentioned. Like I said, for me, it was like, I'm not an extrovert, I'm generally an introvert. So, but I really, it was kind of difficult when we started out, but now I'm really enjoying the conversations, the connections that we're making, and the insights that's coming out of each of these episodes. And each one of our guests has been really awesome and valuable for growing the show. It's nothing to do with me per se, but I think the guests are the key. Of course, you talked about authenticity. People tune in to see how you navigate the show and how you get the best out of your guests.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, it's a mix, I believe, of the guest and the host and the style and everything put together. Right?
I'm curious, so now you're in season 3, what has been like your biggest challenge points?
So, okay, now we're turning it into Open House podcast.
I like to. I'm just curious because I like to learn from people.
So the first, the lack of direction, like you mentioned, we were all over the place. We didn't have any specific direction. Even for finding guests, we were just getting anybody and everybody on board. But now, now that we are in season 3, we've become a little bit more selective. We want to, like you said, add our listeners to add value, to give some value out of this whole exercise. They want to go back and find out that, we've got something out of this show. That's the goal. We're still trying, we're still evolving, we're still navigating, but that's the goal.
Sure.
But yeah, these are the initially we're just trying to set it up, put the technicalities in place. Like you mentioned, I've tried it myself, but it's not easy. There are a lot of YouTube tutorials on how to set up your mic, how to go to the platform to publish it, and how to market it. But at the end of the day, when it comes to one person doing it, it's quite challenging. And I really applaud you for navigating through all that juggling through all that, and making sure that you survived these 5 years and you've come out on top. That's really interesting. Now, running a podcast in UAE, even if you look at the market landscape, you can see a podcast, new podcasts popping up every day. We have studios offering podcast space and equipment, and so this is, I think, gaining traction within the UAE, especially that it's so dynamic. A lot of people from different parts of the world, but again, operating podcasts in a country like this, we need to be aware of the legal restrictions. We need to be mindful of the country's cultural and so. In that aspect, what are the boundaries, do you think, from your experience, that we need to keep in mind when we do a podcast here in the UAE? I'm not generally talking about. I think that's what people want to know. If I'm doing a show here in the UAE, what are the things that I need to keep in mind? Because again, we don't want to upset anybody. We want to work within the framework of what we are, what we have, the luxury of what we have. Yes.
Yeah. So I would say, okay. There are topics or areas that are just red lines that you don't cross. So things like politics, religion, anything between men and women, like all that kind of stuff. This is not the place to have those conversations. So don't touch those, because although there might be topics you want to discuss, you have to weigh it up. Like why, if the rules are that, just follow the rules.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you do, I think Dubai, we're in a very fortunate position, because you do have a lot more, I'd say, flexibility than maybe other parts of the region,
Absolutely.
and to have real deep, honest conversations about some difficult topics sometimes.
Yes.
So I think you have a lot of flexibility. Just be conscious of, I would avoid the red lines. Don't talk about those areas. But otherwise, I think you have the freedom to really express yourself the way you want, which is, I think, one of the things that makes Dubai such an attractive, unique, and dynamic place, as you were saying.
Absolutely. I think that's a very valid point that you've made there, because even it's multicultural and very tolerant at the end of the day. I think we have a lot more flexibility than some of the other countries in the region, and that's attracting a lot of creators into the market as well. And I think that's a really positive sign for podcasters who want to set up a show here in Dubai. There's a stat that 44% of the podcast stop just after 3 episodes, and 80% quit after 10 episodes. So that's really, it brings back to the conversation of consistency. In your experience, why? I'm not sure if you've someone who set up a podcast and stopped, or but from your experience, what are the reasons that podcasts fail like this?
Yeah, honestly, when I found out that statistic, AJ, I was pretty surprised as well, because I've been doing it for so long. So in my head, that's very unfathomable. I think people look at podcasting in the wrong way. Podcasting is a long-term game thing. And sometimes the value of having a podcast won't materialize till further down the line. So the top 3 things that stop people, from what I've researched and from my experience, is lack of ROI. So they're not patient enough, with the show. They burn out because they realize, this takes a significant amount of work. And number 3, I think, people all want to get into it and just monetize straight away. Monetization is something you can do. Your podcast can be a very powerful monetization tool, not just from ads and sponsorships, but from the clients or the people you have on the show. A lot of my guests in the early days, how this business was built, was from guests I had. They're like, "Oh, Khaled, we want to launch a podcast. We know, we've had a good time with you. We're looking to launch our own. Could you help us?" That's kind of how the business, on my side started. So a question you need to ask is, let's say a business is on the fence about launching a podcast. You're like, okay, what if, and because there's an investment that comes with it, to run the show, to do all that kind of stuff. But what if there's that one client you get? If you got one new client from the show, wouldn't that offset any cost that the show has? And what if that client is your dream client? Like, oh man, this is, that's the golden egg. This is the guy we want. Or this is the business that we want. What better way to build that relationship to start off with than with a podcast? So if I'm inviting you on a show, this is a framing that I think people don't understand. So you invited me on your show today. Okay. as a guest, how do I feel? I feel that I'm someone of value. I feel that I'm appreciated. The host has done a great job, doing the research, preparing the questions, and I'm having a great time. So just this 1 hour conversation, or as long as it is, the relationship we will have after this is already starting off on a much more personal, stronger foot. So if we want to end up working together, what better way than to start, from here? And that guest could open more business for you, your network. Like, I've had guests on the show who have not only brought me more business because of people they've connected me with, but brought more guests from one. I remember one guy got me 10 new guests.
Oh, really?
And that's just an exponential thing of the network growing. So I think people underestimate the power of podcasts, but I also think people are very impatient when it comes to podcasting, because it's a long-term game thing. And I think people need to go into it with that mindset. Otherwise, my earlier days of the business was just launching podcasts for clients. So I'd come in, we build out the whole strategy, we get it done, we launch episode 1. And then I would leave the project. That's how my business started. Any of those podcasts I was a part of in the earlier days, they stopped. Because they realized, like, oh, there's so much more work that goes into this. This is hard. This takes time. So that's why I changed the business model now to create a full package. Because the shows that I'm actively a part of and producing and managing and running, those shows are going great. Because there's someone there running the show and taking care of all the headache that you don't want to. You want a podcast, but you don't want the headache. And that's where kind of I come in.
Very true, what you told about the guests. And I can vouch for that, because I still have connections with 80% of the guests who's been on my show, and these are really amazing people, really high profile, really knowledgeable, intelligent guests. And I really want to give out a shout out to some of the season 1 guests that we have had, because just when we set up this show, when we were in a very nascent stage and when we were just a baby, they dedicated their time to come to our show, spend some, give us their valuable input, and that really built the foundation for the show. So I'm really, really indebted to some of the earlier guests that we had in season 1 who just came in, spent some time talking about their expertise and help build that foundation for the show, and really makes a difference. And you're right about the connections. It's really amazing the kind of personal connection that you build. Now, Khaled, apart from Hope It Helps, your personal show, you help brands and businesses establish their own show. Now, being in the branding space, being in the creative space, I understand the value, of brands who undertake these kind of initiatives, because this is kind of a thought leadership. It gives brand authority, builds brand authority, and so on. So how do you go about doing that? Like, if I'm a business, we don't do business. This is basically a passion project. It just helps. It's just a value addition to the services that we offer. But apart from that, we don't help set up podcasts for brands and businesses. But in your case, you solely focus on that. And if I'm a business, or even if I'm a personal brand, in the property space or a healthcare sector or something, and if I want to do something different and establish my brand in the market and establish my personal brand and name, and I connect with you, how do you go about doing this? Can you take me through the entire process, journey of how it's done?
Absolutely, man. But first, I want to commend you, because this is your 3rd season already.
Yes.
People in the UAE only woke up to podcasts in 2024. So I want to commend you that you saw the potential and the vision behind it at an early stage, and that's why you've built the foundation and reached the level you have now. And I love what you said about those early guests, because I resonate with that a lot too.
It would have been our friends. It would have been
that's how it starts, though.
Our clients. But they took the time to come here, spend time with us, talk to us, and help us. And although they didn't realize that the impact that they were creating, they were just having a casual conversation. But on our side, it was really valuable to establish that foundation, right?
And So one thing, when I reach out to guests, I have because in the early days, there's a certain guest that you want, but your show isn't at the level that maybe they would consider that they want to come on, they want, a platform, all that stuff. So I said, whenever I get to the stage and then it's my turn to be invited onto shows, I will go to every show I'm invited to because I've been there. I know how it feels and I want to give back. So if I reach out to you as a guest and the first question you ask me is, oh, how many followers do you have? You're no longer invited to the show because that's not what it's about.
Exactly.
It's to have a good conversation, it's to help people. And you are getting a platform, you are getting a new audience. But if you're coming with that intention, then there's lots of other podcasts that you can be on. Now, coming back to the business side that you asked me. So I've launched podcasts in a couple of different industries. So I've done real estate, I've done government think tanks, the AUD, personal ones for, high net worth individuals and for engagement networks. Now, what I've noticed is, okay, there's like a framework to how this works. So there's the proposals I send or how I work is split up into two phases. There's the launch phase, and then there's the production and running the show phase. So in the launch phase, it's split up into 5 steps. So number 1 is the strategy. This is where we sit down, me and you would sit down, AJ, and we brainstorm like, all right, what's our vision for the show? What's the message? Who's the target audience? When are we going to be releasing it? What platforms? Laying the foundation that we're going to build the show on, what type of guests that we want. So that's the strategy side. Part 2 is the content planning and scheduling. So we go through what are the types of content we want to put out. As you know, Reels are fantastic these days as a great way to go viral, to build content. But you want to have a mix of different things. And we create what that would look like, when would it go out, put a content calendar together so we understand, all right, this is how it's going to run as we go through the podcast. Number 3 is I help them reach out to guests in the sense I'm not responsible for reaching out to the guests, but I've now built quite a big network. So if there's someone you want, I can really help you with that. Or I've developed a framework or like a messaging that I'd say I've had a 95, 99% success rate with. Either you're not going to reply or it's very rarely a no, very rarely. Number 4, and this is an area that I think, and you touched on it earlier in the conversation, the host. So just like when you started, just like when I started, I had no host experience. But now, like you were saying, over time, we've done, now 3 seasons. There's a way to be a good host, and I'm sure in your journey, you've evolved as a host through all the conversations you've had. So I do host training. So we do a couple of recordings because the success of any show, there's lots of different factors, but why does everyone keep coming back to your show? Because of you. Why do people keep coming back to my show? It's because of me. The host is the consistent thing, because the guests will change, but the host is going to be consistent. So I want you to be ready for that first recording, because a lot of times people don't have any interview experience, and you want to start in the best way possible. So doing some training before, so when you start, you're like, you're not worried about the camera, you're not worried about asking the questions. I want you to be comfortable. And then step 5 is all the back end. So setting you up on all the platforms, all the distribution, where we're going to host it, what platform is going to be on, is it going to be video, is it going to be audio. So that's what the launch phase looks like. Then the second part is just the ongoing management and production of the show. So that's me doing all the edits, the content calendar, the social media. I upload the episodes, I post on whatever social accounts that we have. So all you have to do is you pick the guests you want. I'm here to support with that. You record the episode, and the show runs like clockwork. Because this element is the element that people don't understand how much work it takes and how much of a time investment it is. And this is often where a lot of them fail. This is where a lot of podcasts fail, because they don't have a system to continuously run the show, produce the content, bring the guests, So that's basically what I do, and you can apply that framework you can apply to any industry or any business.
For someone who's actually starting out, who's inspired, hearing you talk, and they just want to start up their own podcast, probably they don't have the bandwidth to work with a professional like you, and they just want to try it out first, and then maybe later on, get in touch. When it comes to setting up your own show by yourself, what are the things that we need to consider in terms of the equipment in terms of the, you need to upload your content somewhere and then you need to market it. There's the audio platforms like Spotify, there's Apple Podcast, and then there's YouTube. Can you give us some guidelines on if someone who really want to do it on their own?
Sure. So I would say first decide, is it going to be an audio or video podcast? Right. Your podcast doesn't have to be video. I had a big debate with someone recently on my show about, the audio video debate. I'm very heavy on the video because I just see everything's moving in that way, and the potential with if I bring a great guest on my show, I want that video to market to, because it's going to amplify my platform, their platform, the audience. So I'd first say audio, video. If it's just audio, in my opinion, it's quite simple. You'd need 2 good microphones. You would need a Zoom recorder, which is what I've been using since day one. It's like busted and broken up, but it works great. And you get an SD card. It's very simple to set up equipment-wise audio. Video is a different story. Because that's when budgets are going to become a thing. That's when you're set, the lighting, there's a whole different element to video. And what I've done, so I built my own studio at home, and what I also help with the university, we help build their studio as well. So I also help people who want to build their own studios because I understand it's difficult. Budget is going to be your number one constraint when it comes to that, because cameras are like crazy expensive. There's a lot you can do with lights, but you'll get to a certain level that unless you upgrade the camera, you won't get to that next level. So decide video or audio first. If you do video, there's a lot more work that comes with it. So I'll speak from my experience. I hired a YouTube coach 2 months ago.
Okay.
Because I was uploading consistent and it was growing, but slowly. And then working with him, I'm like, oh wow, there's so much. There's a science. There's like a method to the madness. How's the thumbnail? Is it faces, not faces? What's the text on the thumbnail? How long does the title need to be? They have to link together, and then the text has some. It's like it's a system, but no one knows. Like it's so. Once you find out, you're like, oh, of course,
specialized.
Very specialized. So, video will take you a lot more work. I don't want people to stop from starting a podcast, but I also think if you're not sure, test it out. And if you're not sure you want to commit to it and so on, do a pilot, record 3 episodes, audio only, see how you feel. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And then maybe do another 3, see how let it be slow, don't let it be such a massive thing, to stop you if you have the passion for it. I'm going to be biased on a personal level because I've been doing it for so long. I'm like, if you want to do it, start right, have a vision, and long-term this, because you will see the benefits over time. And of course, if anyone wants help or anything, I also do coaching, so if you don't want the whole A to Z production, what I also do is, okay, we can sit down, we can have a call, we can consult, we'll at least get you the strategy done, and then you can figure it out, and obviously I'm there to support as well.
Right. That would be really,
because I think a lot of people have that. They want, but they don't want to, obviously.
You get so much of content online, but then it's different when you have someone personal,
100%.
Ask if you can ask questions back and then get your feedback and, based on your experience. And it really makes a big difference, I believe. And now creation, we talked about the creation part of it. When it comes to marketing and monetizing, I've actually not thought about monetizing as yet, because that was not been our focus till now. But I think maybe, soon down the line, probably we could think about monetizing. What are the ways in which podcast shows can monetize? I know there's different methods to do that, not just the social platforms, but externally as well. What are the different models in which you can monetize your show? Yeah,
so what I've seen, especially even from the biggest podcasters in the world over the last couple of years, there's a couple of ways you can do this. So there's the very traditional way is sponsorships. So I'm a brand, I want to sponsor your show, I'll do an ad read in the beginning of the show or at some point, and there's costs associated. So that's one part. Then there's brand partnerships, which is something I like a lot, because you can sponsor, that's not just sponsoring like, oh, a little read, you could sponsor like a whole season. You know, this episode is brought to you by X. So let's say you're a marketing and branding agency. You guys have a lot of clients.
Yes.
Why not offer it to your clients? Be like, hey, you want to sponsor our show, and you'll be the sponsor for the whole season, and you get access, to our audience and to that. So it could be very powerful there. There's things like Patreon. So, people will be like, we have like the weekly show, but now what people do, they'll record like twice a week, but those other episodes now go behind the paywall. You can have exclusivity with platforms. Obviously, the Joe Rogans and stuff, they have those kind of things, but it'll take you, it's going to take you a bit of time to get there.
It's a different level, maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe in 10 years.
And obviously, and the last thing I would say is branded episodes. So let's say, my show, for example, if I have someone who reaches out like, hey Khaled, we want to, we'd love to be on the podcast. And then I have like criteria of who I have and why, does it fit, does it not? But let's say they don't fit. What you can offer is, okay, you can come on the show, but this is a branded episode. So it'll be to promote a product you have with this, and there's a cost attached to it. So you come on the show, just like any other guest would, but then I give you a media kit, social media content and reels. So you're getting access to my platform, and you're getting marketing material and a media kit for you to use to help continue to promote the certain product. So I'd say those are the 4 or 5 key areas. Yeah.
Right. What about the platforms itself, like YouTube and you start monetizing on those platforms if it's a video content? How does that work? Like,
so that's what I'm on the road to that right now.
Okay.
YouTube is, if you're going to put any effort into a platform, AJ, what I've learned is YouTube's the one. It's the second largest search engine in the world for your SEO, for blogs, for anything. YouTube is so powerful. Now, to become eligible for I think they call it the YouTube Partner Program, you need to have 4,000 hours of watch time, and you need 1,000 subscribers, and that's irrespective of any paid stuff that you've done, because they won't calculate it like that. So that's what YouTube does. Spotify now is really starting to enter the space. They want to be competing against YouTube. To become monetized on Spotify, the requirements are much higher. But they're very new to this, so I think it will get better over time. So if I'm going to put my energy somewhere as a podcaster or as a business, I'm putting it into 2 platforms, YouTube and LinkedIn. Those 2, that's where I get 95% of my guests.
How does LinkedIn work? Like,
so
you put the video content on LinkedIn?
Yeah. And LinkedIn now is also pushing video.
Okay.
They want to...
So you put the entire episode?
No, I just put some clips. Put some clips. So for today, I released an episode yesterday. So today I'll be uploading, a clip, obviously with some text, link it to the show.
Right.
And LinkedIn is very good because not only does podcasting grow your network, when you're growing it and sharing it on LinkedIn, now you're getting access to everyone else's network. I have doubled my LinkedIn following, in the last, I think, 2 months.
Wow.
YouTube, after work with my coach, we've doubled the subscribers in the last 2 months. So I'm very heavy on those. I post on Instagram, I post on TikTok, but I don't really care about those, to be honest. My focus is on these 2 because LinkedIn, not only for a network, but also for business. People reach out to me for, because they want help to launch their shows and stuff. They want to be guests on my shows. It's so powerful. And then YouTube is the back end, the feeder that you want to push people from LinkedIn to YouTube, but then you want them to go from YouTube back to LinkedIn to reach out to you and so on. So that's my approach. That's what I do, and that's what I would recommend to.
It's quite interesting. I mean, we've been exploring. Like I said, we're still evolving. And insights like these are great to actually try out and understand and probably grow the show as well. Now, with everything evolving around us, especially in AI and a lot of tools out there, what is the trends that you're seeing? Because I think 57% of the podcasters use AI-powered content or assistance in terms of creating the podcast. So where do you see this going? Which areas do you think we can use AI in terms of developing a show or making consistent creative efforts. Yeah.
Man, AI has really honestly changed the game. And I feel like you can't have a conversation these days, no matter what you're talking about, AJ, with someone without AI coming up in some way. For podcasting, AI has been very powerful. I use it a lot for lots of different reasons. It just makes your work, you can just work a lot faster. It's just you're more efficient with your work. So instead of something taking 5 hours, now it will take me 2 hours, because although it's making my process, whether it's editing, creating content, scripting things, yes, it makes it faster, but I still have to sit for another hour or two and go through everything and put my take on it, my touch, like, oh, I didn't like what it did there, I need to bring in so it can make you move faster, but at the end of the day, still the thing that's going to make it unique is your input into what it's giving you. But I think it's not just with podcasts, as you know, I'm sure, with business, even I've been hearing marketing agencies now are really pushing AI systems there's someone I know that has a marketing agency that he has like AI clones. So he clones you, and he posted a video last week and is like, guess which one's AI? And I got on a call with him after. I'm like, I think it was option one. He's like, no. And I'm like, that's terrifying. Yeah. But also a massive, there's so much you can do. It really is just limited by your creativity and your knowledge of how to use the tool. Yeah. There might be even ways that I'm not even aware of for podcasting that it could be, helpful. But at the end of the day, no matter how good AI is, what we're doing right now, you can't replace that with AI.
Yeah, I think human connection is I think this is something that we discussed on the call earlier as well, right? I mean, we have this AI. I mean, human beings are imperfect. We make mistakes. We probably, when you're drafting the letter, we use the wrong language. We get people upset. This is all part of being human, right? When we are so obsessed with being perfect, we use AI to create the perfect draft for our email, or create the perfect image, or use our AI tools to create the perfect podcast. But what makes it human is those mistakes, right? And I think we will reach a stage where we will crave for these mistakes, because everything around us will be so perfect, everything is so polished. I mean, right now, even when you see an image that's made in AI, there's some kind of, it's getting there, it's getting hyper realistic, and but still there is some element that makes it makes us wonder, is it real or is it? And this feeling is going to, I think, increase as we go, as AI gets embedded in our lives more and more in every aspect, human connections, phone calls, emails, image generation, creativity. I think we will reach a point where we as human beings crave for that small mistakes that we make. We want to see an email with broken English. I think that's what we'll crave for in the future. So I think this is my personal take. All right, but I think this is where we're heading, because everything is looking so perfect. So, and like you said, like you rightly mentioned, AI is an enabler. Someone who wants to start a podcast just goes to AI and makes the perfect script, asks AI for everything, and does everything. He gets everything out of AI, and he starts his own show. Is different from you using that tool to create, because you are an expert. The game inside out. So there's going to be a huge difference in someone who's not industry specific using AI for a specific industry, as well as an industry expert using AI for that specific domain. And that's where, this is one of the challenges that, sometimes clients ask us, we have these tools, why don't we create ourselves? But it's different. I mean, we don't use AI to create something. We use AI to get inspired, to research, to find information, and we create our own kind of based on our experience and based on our expertise. So there's a big difference in an expert a domain expert using AI for that domain, as well as a novice using AI for a different, for that domain. I think there's a big shift. And this is what people fail to understand. But when they market it to us, AI is a perfect solution for everything. It's not like that. And maybe we will reach there someday, but I don't think that happening in the next 1 or 2 years. It's evolving rapidly, but in the next 1 or 2 years or 3 years, I don't think that happening. Because you need domain expertise, you need human connections, you need, as of now, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Yeah, so that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. I would agree with you, honestly. And it's interesting. I like what you said, that everything is, we're trying to make everything AI makes everything perfect, and we will crave the imperfections.
Yeah.
So if you notice what's going on, you're on LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
Because AI is there now, right? You can see when someone's using it. You can see when someone's not.
Someone who's never posted.
Yeah, exactly.
Posted religiously every day, big articles.
Yeah, you see that, the famous dash. You're like, I see what's going on. But I think, as AI is becoming more part of our lives, you're seeing there's a massive shift now into personal branding, into authenticity, into storytelling, because it's exactly what you said is happening in real time. We are moving in one area towards more perfection, which is increasing the need, desire, and demand for your personal brand, for authenticity, for storytelling. So I 100% agree with you. And on the point you made about the effectiveness of someone using the AI tool, I was watching a podcast the other day, and what they said, and I agreed with it, was, AI has kind of removed the chessboard and now is a brand new board, right? So everyone can play on this new board. The winners are going to be the ones who have a deep expertise in a certain area and will be able to leverage the tool in that way, because they, like you said, although, we have the same tools, but someone who is an expert, for example, in, cars is going to be... I'm never going to get to that level. It will help me, but I'm never going to get to that, because you will see things differently, and you will see opportunities that only someone with a depth of knowledge, not a breadth, will experience. So I agree with you, man.
How do we improve? I mean, when we go on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube even, so many tons and tons and tons. We talked about 2 million podcasts. How do we improve the discoverability of our podcast, make it more exciting, sticky? And because, once they find your show, maybe they may get attracted, but the discoverability aspect, do you have any tips on that?
So on discoverability, I would say, it's a good point. So just to give you context, and I think this is important for people to hear, because people think podcasting is just about views. If I don't have a lot of views, that means I don't have a successful show. But it's that's such a misconception, because number one, as we said, it takes time. But people, what I discovered, so I just got featured on Apple Podcasts across the Middle East a month ago. And this is after 5 years in the space. Some people have done it shorter, some people not. But what I learned is, just because you have high views, if there's not good engagement, if the watch time on your content isn't high, then Apple is not going to rate it, as highly, for example. When it comes to discoverability, there's a game. It's really, and honestly, working with my YouTube coach and building the channel, the massive growth we've seen in the channel over the last 2 months shows me that there's a game in your title, there's a game in the thumbnail, there's a game in how engaging is it. But at the end of the day, AJ, no matter how good your packaging is, and I've spoken to many podcasters on my show, if the content of that episode isn't good, you could have the best marketing, the best whatever, people are not going to come back to the show. So I would tell people, and what I've learned, focus on the content. Number one, that's the most important thing that you need to get right, because that's what's going to keep people coming back and build your following. And then once this is sorted out, you start thinking about, how do we want to package the show? What's the thumbnail? What's the title? What's the links? The SEO, all that kind of stuff comes second. Content first.
Khaled, it's been truly inspiring talking to you. I've learned a lot of things. I just have one last question before we let you go, and Now you said you wear multiple hats, you do multiple things, right from creating the strategy to developing content to hosting your own show, production, post production, as well as working with brands and businesses. So that's a lot of work, right? And
Yeah, it is.
how do you keep up with all these things? How do you balance your time effectively? Is there any tips, tricks? Is there any daily routine that you follow that helps you keep up with all this pressure? And what is your vision or goal for the next 3 to 4 years?
Yeah. So on the routine part is something that took me a while to build. I'd say over the last maybe year and a half, I started really prioritizing, my health. So I have like a whole morning routine that I run through. Every day I want to improve mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So like from this reading books, doing breath work, all that. So that's to take care of like Khaled. And then when it comes to work, what I've realized is if you can create a system, things get a lot easier. It doesn't mean you're going to work less, but the effort you need to do those tasks will become easier because like just using my podcast as an example, every week there's a routine, all right? So I have my recorded episode, then I'm going to have to edit it. Then I'm going to have to create the social media content, and then I'm going to have to make the thumbnail, and then I'm going to have to make the packaging. So like it's very systematized, and it's just like pluck, pluck, you just go along with it. I don't have to think about, what should I do? When you don't have a system or a routine, and that was been my biggest mistake and took me the longest to build, it was just a lot harder to work, to get things done. You're not as productive because you sit and you're like, should I do this? Should I do that? Just that alone mentally is exhausting, and then you work together for like a while, you work for like a week, you'll be doing a lot of activity. And this is a misconception that we have. And I'm guilty of this too. So I'm not saying that, I've got to figure it out. No, I'm still learning on this.
Yeah.
Activity and productivity are not the same thing. Because you can make yourself very busy and do lots of different things, but has that moved you forward in the direction you want to go to? It's not that it's bad, but could you have used your time more effectively? So I think, and what I've learned in this journey, just the last 2 years as an entrepreneur, just with the business, is it's hard. It's hard. You've been here for like 8 years now, so it's hard.
It's true. I mean, we hear about these systems and we hear about these practices, and it's great if it's working for you. But I think every individual is different. Especially for me, I'm kind of very lazy, and I don't have. I've tried these kind of systems. A lot of books on putting things into systems and breaking it down and things like that. Atomic Habits, and so many numerous
great
books
book.
on. But sometimes, it really depends on individual to individual. Everybody has a different mindset, personality, different, and the time of the day. Some people say morning is the best time. For some people it's evening. Sometimes it's so it really varies from person to person. Some people go to do workout in the morning. Some people do workout in the evening. So it really depends on your body, your system, your your mindset, your makeup. And everything put together. So, I mean, for me, I've been trying to put these systems into place, but it's been very challenging for me to be quite honest.
Man.
Yeah, it's not easy. So what I'm trying to do now is to break the whole day into zones, so that we don't break it down too deep. I mean, to do these micro. I need to do this task by this time. I just divided into zones, probably the first half, 3 zones, the first, the middle, and the last end of the day, and then try to get as much things done as possible. I wouldn't say it's working, but this is what I'm trying, because systems is not really working for me as a thing. So something I'm hoping that I can leverage on, and I can learn, and I can deploy in my personal life as well. I think. Khaled, it's been really wonderful having you. You're one of the first, podcast hosts that we've been having on the show, and it's really amazing insights that you've provided us today. I just want to thank you personally for being part of the show, and hope we can have you sometime when next year when you have. I think this is something I really liked when you said that. when you get a request to be a guest on a show, you just take it up, and you really understand, because you remember the initial days when you were struggling to get guests on the show, and that's really touching, and I think that goes a long way into showing the struggles of a podcast host and putting together the show, finding guests and so on, and then you're trying to make a difference in making it easy on the lives of people, and that's really amazing. Thank you for being on the show.
Man, no, I want to say first, thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate it. I'm not used to being on the guest side. Yeah, I was on a recording a month ago, and it was still. What I realized actually, from our conversation today and from the last time, I've trained to be a host, but what I've also realized is there's a way to be a guest too.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's a skill set, because now
you lost it in between you and us.
Well, yeah, I know, that's the thing. So it's just interesting that I've been reflecting. I'm like, okay, there's a way to be a better guest as well. To make the host have a better conversation, to make to add more value. So I want to say thank you so much again for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. Congratulations on 3 seasons. You guys saw the potential from the beginning, and just as from a host to host, you did a fantastic job. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Khaled. It means a lot coming from you, and thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of the show, and hope you will catch us on our next episode of Unboxed with AJ. We are available on all major platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Please find us there, and would love to connect. And if you would like to be on the show, please connect with us, and we'll be happy to have you on the show. Thank you.